Our first guest today is Mike Massey. And what can I say about Mike? He started Massey's Professional Outfitters many years ago in New Orleans. And it actually has been a go-to, I know this for a fact, it's been a go-to store in the New Orleans area for years and years and years with regard to outdoor products. And since he didn't have enough to do, he decided that he wanted to start an online business and drive online and the benefits of online to specialty stores around the country, working for both brands and specialty stores. And we met about 20 years ago when I started 3.5, and it was a retail salesperson online training company, and Mike got it right away, and we've been good friends ever since. So it's an honor to have you on Channel Signal, our first interview series called Out and Back, and welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Paul. It's great. I do remember that time all the way back in the northern woods of Georgia, meeting you in your grand scheme to change the rep training world for the better. And kudos to you for getting it right.
Well, thank you. I can also remember that the Grassroots held in June their sales meeting in Snowbird, and I was there with a big TV, an old-fashioned TV, and also talking with retailers about it. And I remember it was about minus 500 in there.
Totally. And wet.
and wet. Let's get on with our first question, and it's
Sure.
really a two-part question. It's demand and the supply channel, and the demand of 2021 is going to be a lot different than it's ever been before. People have a new perspective on life. They're booking trips, they're embracing new adventures. They're buying a lot of equipment, especially outdoor equipment. And, the impact on retail sales, it's massive already. Projections indicate a 13.5% increase over 2020, which builds on last year's pandemic increase of 32%. So, when you add those two up, we have about a 45 or 46% increase over 2019 in demand alone.
Wow.
And, now we have the 4th of July holiday coming up, and that is also looks like it's going to be a bump of about another $1 billion on top of that. So people have been vaccinated, or many have been vaccinated, and it's opening up. Now you combine that with the supply chain, which record long lead times, wide scale shortages, rising commodity prices, and difficulty in getting the products to our shore. I looked at the Institute for Supply Manufacturers and found that right now in May, the materials have now reached a record 85 days getting to their destination. So it's lead times, of at least 85 days. So we have exploding demand. We have, especially for outdoor products, and a clogged supply chain. It's a long-winded question, but I wanted to supply a few things for you. How long do you think it's going to be before this supply chain is straightened out, and then it can match up with the burgeoning demand?
Yeah. So I don't have as much to do with retail as I used to, but I still have my office in Massey's on the second floor, and I'm listening to our buyers talk to our suppliers, and and we're hearing that this doesn't really straighten itself out until at least next spring, and and some of them feel like it's going to last a little bit longer than that, because there's impacts throughout the supply chain, and even though perhaps finished goods, can get sent out faster, there's impacts all the way up into zippers and colors and dyes and things like that. So I think we're going to see it lasting for a little bit.
How are you going to manage to that? How would you think that retail will manage to that? Because consumers are coming in and saying, we want this, and we can't, your reply is, we can't get it until what, spring?
Well, so like I jokingly tell our buying team that, they have to come to work every day and put their day trader hat on. And that means, chasing down, stuff that we can get. We're not here to just have the lights on and stand around in our store. We're here to sell things. And if that means that like we are, making some shifts in some of our choices or perhaps even some of our categories, that is what's happening. Things like bikes, kayaks, rainwear, some of our sportswear brands, those can't easily be replaced. But there are things that are available, and if we're open-minded in the way we approach our assortment planning, then we're okay. And on top of that, like it's allowed us to de-risk a lot of our inventory. When a manufacturer transfers merchandise to a retailer, that they also transfer all the risk of holding the inventory. And and years from 2019 and prior, it was great. I mean, the manufacturers could transfer all of their risk down the supply chain, get it into the stores, and the stores would sit there, even with their long dating, holding too much merchandise to sell. And so like I think that it's like given a lot of companies an opportunity to sit back and think, what is the actual demand for my products? What does it look like organically? And instead of stuffing the supply chain, it's like an artist filling up an art studio rather than, making enough just to be sold to, the end enthusiast. And I think that we were doing a lot of that in 17, 18, and 19. I think that reset's actually, while it's a pain point for consumers in some ways, it's also been a pretty good, piece in the supply chain. It's given everybody a chance to rethink, where they want to go.
How close to real time or the march towards real time in the supply chain, because that would be really beneficial for the retail sector.
Absolutely.
How's that coming?
I think there's a lot of systems that are being put in place to monitor the supply chain in real time. And that includes all the way downstream, like looking at actual retailer inventory, what's in the pipeline. I think let's say that like in the past we had slack in the line, and now we've got like an over tightness in the line, and getting it to like just to that just in time spot. I think we're going to come out of this probably next spring or maybe next fall in a spot where perhaps we won't go back to like, this tremendous amount of slack in the pipeline where goods are being made with the intent to be sent to TJ Maxx, after the first sell-in, where TJ Maxx is making commitments to like buy excess product and excess product is being made. I think that we're not going to go back to that. And I think that that's actually a really good thing.
The 4th of July, what are you seeing now, both from a locally standpoint and from Massey's standpoint? What is the big demand for the products right now?
It is get outdoors. I mean, it is exactly what you started with. It is, people are getting back on planes. I've traveled, a couple of times so far on, family vacations, and everywhere I've been, absolutely packed. There's a supply chain issue and merchandise issue, but there's also, I mean, I'm based in New Orleans. There's issues here with like bartenders, waiters, people that work in hotels. My wife just came back from, a Caribbean trip, and, they had issues with like staffing. Everybody's like kind of, trying to get that employee to come work for them. So I think there's peculiar bottlenecks, economic disequilibriums that are occurring throughout. But the signal that consumers are sending is that they want to spend money to go do things again. They want to like get moving again, and it's really obvious.
So the supply chain, you and I used to know, well, this was before the pandemic, about 80% of revenue was generated by brick and mortar.
Yep.
And about 20% was generated by online. Now, that is, I'm not saying that's flipped, but the pandemic certainly moved online from 20% to a big number.
Sure, it was a bigger number. Stores were closed. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The internet is the ultimate resource for us to shop, whether we're going to a movie theater or going to dinner or going on a vacation. The internet is our de facto source of information now, source of truth for, what to buy, where to buy it, how to get it, what to eat, what band you like. Everybody uses the internet for all those decisions. That said, brick and mortar retail, still growing. We see the numbers come out. It's growing this year. surprisingly, it grew last year. Despite all the stores being, closed, it still eked out a tiny, little bit of growth. I personally, sitting in a retail store, our business is great. And I have, like you mentioned earlier, I'm, deeply involved in grassroots. I don't know of any retail store in distress. We're doing a lot less advertising than we've ever done, but we have more foot traffic walking in the door. I think that there's this new blended consumer approach. We've talked about omni-channel, we talked about multi-channel, we talked about all these kind of things. I don't really think there's a such thing as any of those. I just think that there's like a buying channel, and it's online informed mostly, and the conversions are happening both online and offline. And right now we're seeing a lot of conversions happening in brick and mortar. I mean, I've basically tamped down my online business entirely, and I'm relying much more on locally than ever before. I've tamped down my online business I don't need to ship things to strangers. I can't even get stuff. I don't need to be acquiring customers and spending money to do that. I've got my local customers are creating enough demand for the products that I carry that I am absolutely satisfied with my brick and mortar business, even if that was my only business.
What's driving those consumers into your doors?
There's no doubt whatsoever that consumers are walking in the door because of online information. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Anybody who thinks otherwise is crazy. And it's the same thing that's happening in restaurants. People, everybody that's listening to this is going to go to Yelp or go to OpenTable or perhaps TripAdvisor, read information about where to go eat today or tomorrow or dinner this weekend with their friends, and they're going to make a decision. They might book a table, or they might just go there. But the reality is that online information informs consumer behavior almost entirely at this point. So while I could go back and forth about what the percentages are of this or that, when you look at a company like Home Depot, which is a harbinger of a lot of information, I think at this point, it's almost 60% of their online transactions are for curbside or in-store pickup. Okay, they're seeing online informed shopping as being the largest, and I don't even want to call it channel if there's an omni-channel concept, but they're seeing online informed purchases, growing in an explosive way. So is Walmart.